This is the September 10th, 2014 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. First order of business is a continuation of a notice of intent from 2 or 3 meetings ago, 346 Western Ave, Lowell, file number 206-732, construction of a 5,000 square foot industrial building and parking lot at 346 Western Ave. Hello, Mr. Hammer. No, I'm the substitute. Can we get you a microphone somewhere?
So after,
introduce
my name is
yourself?
Matt Hammer. I'm with Robert Gill Associates in Lamplex LLC. Since the last meeting that we had received DEP comments, and although they were appreciative that we were integrating porous pavement technologies, it turns out that one of the standards for the requirements for setbacks for porous pavement is that you cannot have those within 100 feet of a surface water. And the definition of a surface water is anything but groundwater. So that posed us to relook at the site and actually redesign the site drainage configuration, which we did after receiving that comment. We continued from the last meeting. We've revised plans, sent them back to the DEP on August 22nd, and now have a very similar design layout. It's just all the drainage is going to be going through a catch basin to oil water separator to an subsurface infiltration system. All the stormwater runoff from the parking areas will go through this catch basin to oil water separator subsurface system. And then the roof runoff here will go into its own separate infiltration system. On the plan as well is a new line which would, we're going to get a net increase in storage of the bordering land subject to flooding, which in this case will be 135 cubic yards. And that new floodplain storage line bordering land subject to flooding elevation, which in this case is 43.6 feet is the elevation. In terms of the performance standards, all the infiltration standard surfaces will be going into an infiltration system, which is standard 1. The second standard is we will have a reduction in flow from the peak to the post development. The 2-year will be 64% decrease in flow. The 10-year will be 69%. And the 100-year will be 70%. The recharge requirement is 397 cubic feet. And we're going to be proposing 5,003 cubic feet. So there's going to be a significant amount of recharge for this project, as was the previous design. Total suspended solids removal will be at 89%, which is 9% more than the 80% required. Standard 5, we're not in a higher potential pollutant load project. All of our storage is going to be within the units themselves. There'll be no outdoor storage whatsoever on the site. And item number 6, we're not discharging to any critical areas. Standard 7 is, we're not a redevelopment, we're a new construction. And in terms of long-term pollution, that's all been outlined in our operation and maintenance plan, which is part of our stormwater submittal for the drainage report and the long-term maintenance of all the systems. The catch basins will be cleaned out, oil water separator, grit chamber will be cleaned out yearly. And we also have inspection ports on the infiltration systems to view those as well. And I can answer any questions from the board.
So the changes since the last time were removing the porous pavement and then having to recalculate drainage.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We could have still had approved that drainage system that we originally had designed. It's encouraged through the engineer's office to incorporate porous pavement technologies in the past. The DEP would not have been able to support an appeal if there was one.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to know that. I didn't know that you had to be a certain distance from
Yeah.
surface water.
What's the rationale to that?
It might come out in a change if they do change these stormwater regs. They have allowed waivers to it in specific circumstances. We've proposed it in the past within 100 feet. It was just something that was caught by a review agent, and it's not that we intentionally did it. It's just, we just thought it was a great best management practice, and it was encouraged by the city for all the projects we've done.
I think is the concern, I know you're probably speculating, but is the concern that maybe within 100 feet, the sheet flow rate is maybe faster than the infiltration rate, and therefore you're not really removing any solids in a timely manner?
I had an in-depth conversation with DEP about how the water gets into the ground, and essentially gets there in the same manner. In a porous pavement technology, you have your choker layers, which filtrates any potential pollutants that way. And in this system, you're using more mechanical means. So it didn't have to do with rate of runoff or anything like that. It's actually just one.
The way the reg's written.
It's in the stormwater guidelines. So.
But in terms of, from your experience, performance standards the same, whether it's infiltration versus porous pavement?
That's correct.
The only other question I had was, I didn't have a chance to look at the detailed figure, but what's the depth, well, I should say the distance between the water table and the infiltration basin?
The bottom of the system is within 1 foot. It's 1 foot.
Okay.
To the bottom of the system. But what I can say is that we're restricted in terms of the amount of movement we have on the property itself, but we do have an oil water grit separator separating the deep sump catch basin from the infiltration system.
Okay. So there's adequate storage for the system to function. You're not going to have any high water table events where you're
No.
within a typical
We
storm.
have great percolating soils.
Okay.
We're not expecting any mounding. And to the extent practicable, we designed a system within the means that we had. And that's the nice thing about porous pavement is you can actually attain more spread out volume
Right.
through the voids in the stone.
Thank you.
Now, these points that you've just gone over with us, were those requirements that the DEP wanted clarification on, or the city engineer?
No, those points are required per the checklist, if that's what you mean.
For,
The
for the
DEP just said that they didn't want the porous pavement within 100 feet of a surface.
Oh, okay, so they're already incorporated into your filing?
Yes,
All
they
of
are.
those figures that you were,
Yes,
going
they're all
over.
part of the checklist and the standards required in order to meet the checklist requirement.
And the plans, I have a plan that goes back a couple of meetings. Has there been a essential change that's going to require a submission of a modified plan to us?
There won't. You know, the city engineer still needs to conduct their review. We could condition an approval based on their review if there was anything substantial in the, in DPD wanted us, or the conservation agent wanted us to come back in and review a change in the plan. We most certainly would do that. But we don't expect, we're fully attenuating the 100-year storm.
Are we waiting for something from the city engineer, Swati, or?
We haven't received anything yet to the revision. So we can maybe condition with the, approval of the revised stormwater report by the city engineer.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that's interested in commenting on this particular submission? This is 346 Western Ave, an industrial building. If there are no more questions from the commission and no more comments from the public, we could have a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
And now, I think we can issue an order with a condition that receipt of the comments from the city engineer before the order is actually issued.
So how about I offer a motion to issue a standard City of Lowell order of conditions conditioned upon receipt of the city engineer's comments with the applicant satisfactorily addressing any comments in that memo.
I should add one other condition that Chris Zachary had wanted. And one was that it would be a condition that there would be no outside storage on the property. He had mentioned that.
No snow storage? I
No
couldn't hear you.
outside storage of any materials from the businesses.
No outdoor storage, okay, sure.
Do you want to add
And then
that?
I will modify my motion
Pretend you start.
to include a second special condition that the applicant does not have any, was it on-site storage, outside storage of materials on the property? Did you get that, Swati?
Yeah, you meant the tenants, did you not?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did mean the tenants, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
second. Any comment or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is a continued notice of intent, number 206-734. Project location is 1085 Varnum Avenue. This is a Duville property. construction of a 13,000 square foot building with associated walks, driveway, and utilities. The last meeting, we had a presentation on this particular request, and we requested that they come back with a plan to remove any development from the 50-foot buffer zone of the project.
Good evening. John Noonan with Noonan McDowell. Correct. The requested change was that we pull the erosion control limit where possible back to the 50-foot buffer zone or more. And so this is the original plan, which shows the patio area as it was originally proposed in the rectangle. And what we had done is basically shave off the corner of the patio and place a one-to-one slope so we could maintain the 50-foot offset line to the BBW. So right now, there's no activity within the 50-foot buffer zone to the BBW as it's proposed. If you look at the current grading plan, you can see that basically we have a 2-to-1 slope. Here we go to a 1-to-1 slope, and then we go back to a 2-to-1 slope till we meet the existing grade.
So does this, staying outside the 50-foot buffer includes not cutting trees? Is that possible to get your project in there?
There'll be no
Not cutting
tree.
it, not doing any disturbance at all within the 50-foot?
Correct.
Okay.
No disturbance at all within the 50-foot.
Now, I notice you have rock instead of a seeded slope on
It's a-
that corner.
It's a 1-to-1 slope, so we have to use placed rock. The elevation difference on that rock slope is 10 feet. So if we went to a 2-to-1, we'd end up being probably 40 feet off the BBW, and then we wouldn't have a rock slope.
But you'd be encroaching into that 50-foot buffer.
By 10,
That's the
about 10
trade-off.
About 10 feet.
So the rest of the filled area there remains as it was when you presented it last time?
Correct.
It's only that corner of the patio that you've
Right,
changed?
But I believe David did make a change in the vegetation cover within the entire sloped area.
Could you use the microphone, please?
David J., landscape architect with Weinmeier J. Associates. I switched to a wildflower mix there. You may be familiar with Ernst Conservation Seeds. They have very good slope mixes of native materials, including grasses, wildflowers, annual ryegrass to hold the slope during the winter.
Now, is this something that's going to be perennial, or will you have to reseed every?
Oh, no, it's perennial, absolutely.
Not that it's really the purview of the Conservation Commission, but with such a slope, I'm curious, at the end of the patio, you're going to have any sort of fencing for health and safety purposes?
It's an elder care facility, and there's 2 separate patios. Both patios are enclosed with fences and controlled access.
All right, thank you.
Alicia?
No, no questions.
Okay. I think this meets what we were looking for, and I'm glad that it didn't require you to do too much changing around of the building in order to stay off of that wetland line. So it looks like a good solution. I'm happy with the wildflower mix, and I'm anxious to see how that takes. I think that'll be something that'll be nice to look at all through the season, hopefully. That's good. And basically, I think that covers our requirements. If there's no more questions from the commission, I'll ask if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on this proposal. If not, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Offer a motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded by
Second.
Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now I believe you've submitted the plans to our office, and we're all set with the modified plans. I think we can issue a Lowell standard order on this.
I'll offer a motion to approve this project and issue a standard Lowell, City of Lowell order of conditions.
Second.
Seconded. Any comment or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion passes. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda, is a notice of intent by NAI Entertainment Holdings. Project location is 32 and 41 Reese Avenue, DEP number 206-737. Removal of sand and debris from the bordering vegetated wetlands on the property by hand.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Bianchetto from Allen and Major Associates, and here on behalf of, as you mentioned, NAI Entertainment Holdings. We do have the green cards and white receipts. Do you want to give those?
You can give those to Swati.
Thank you. As you mentioned, at the request of the City of Lowell, we're here tonight for a notice of intent at 32 and 41 Reese Ave. Basic project summary is that the applicant proposes to repair and mitigate inadvertent wetland disturbance caused by winter snow plowing operations and sanding. The existing development at 32 and 41 Reese Ave is approximately 30 acres. I'm sure you're probably familiar with the location of the property with the Cinema, Outback Steakhouse, and Chili's restaurant on the parcel. The parcel is located off of Reese Ave to the north and bordered by Interstate 495 to the south. After a site walk with the Lowell Planning and Building Departments, the wetlands were delineated to the west of the site and delineated with wetland flag series A1 to A12 and B1 to B21, both being bordering vegetated wetlands. The notice of intent is required because the proposed work is within the BVW areas itself. Just a brief summary of the environmental due diligence. We took a look at the maps, and there is no certified, estimated, or priority habitats on site, no areas of critical environmental concern, or ORWs on site. Lastly, we did check the FEMA firm map. The majority of the site is outside the 500-year floodplain, unshaded areas, Zone X. However, there's areas of lower elevation on the perimeter of the development that are within the 100-foot floodplain and with a base flood elevation 104. And we did pick that up by survey and put that on the proposed plans we have before you tonight. Brief summary of the proposed project improvements. As I mentioned in prior winters, snow was pushed into the edges of the parking lot and into the wetlands itself, and inadvertently some sand and debris from that snow was carried into the wetland. The notice of intent is here to propose removing the sand and debris and mitigating the disturbance. by reseeding with a diverse wetland seed mix, which are shown on the plans. To prevent further BVW disturbance, the project proposes the construction of an angular crushed stone filter berm along the edge of the parking lot to filter any water as it migrates to the BVW, installing signage every 50 feet stating wetland area no disturbance, and to prevent snow plowing into the wetland area. The applicant and the manager of the site has also spoken verbally to the snowplow operators themselves prior to all this and mentioned all this information as well, and make sure they are aware of these areas need to be kept as is. And then the notice of intent also includes a snow storage plan, which is in the set. And during construction, we'll take special care with typical sediment and erosion controls to make sure no construction debris migrates further into the wetlands itself. And that's the basic project summary. And then in summary, by removing the sand and debris from the wetland resource areas, mitigating the disturbance, and executing these steps to prevent further impacts, the adjacent wetland resource areas will be better protected. To the extent practical, disturbance to the wetland resources has been avoided, minimized, or mitigated, in this case mostly mitigated, and the project has met the performance standards of BVW, as well as the Mass Stormwater Performance Standard checklist, which is included in the notice of intent application. The proposed addition of the gravel berm and implementation of the snow storage plan will be a benefit to both the applicant, the city of Lowell, and the wetlands itself. So through careful site planning, the adverse impacts have been minimized in the interest of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the City of Lowell Wetlands Protection Bylaw have been further protected and enhanced. In conclusion, as the applicable standards have been met, the applicant requests your approval of this notice of intent and issuance of an order of conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like a little more explanation of how the work is going to be accomplished. You say by hand, is that shovels and wheelbarrows, or?
I think that's the best method. It's going to take a little bit more time, but if you're familiar with the edge of the property there, there's significant vegetation, both trees, mature shrubs, and if we were to use a backhoe or something mechanical, it's liable to do more damage during the construction. So by hand, that's correct. The intention is shovels, wheelbarrows. So it's really along the perimeter of the parking lot itself, so it's easy to access and pull out and would cause less damage in that method.
So your limit of work really can't be stated because at some locations it's a wider encroachment than others.
Right. What we're going to plan to do is put a sediment log along the edge of where we're hatching here, where as far as I can see, the sand stops and it turns into normal wetland vegetation with normal loam. Put that down as a first step, and then after that staked, remove the sand and debris. And then after the sand and debris is removed, bring back and loam from off-site to replace that sand at a minimum depth of at least 4 inches, and then replant with a diverse wetlands, couple wetland seed mixes.
I'm a little concerned about the replacement soil. If you're only taking out the sand, why are you bringing in soil?
So that you're not left at the depression after you take the sand out and the grade is smooth to the existing adjacent grade. So in most areas, only one small area where the sand actually is a pile. For the most part, it's flush along the surface.
Yeah, I was out at the site today. It seems that you could remove a lot of the sand without actually digging up roots and things, that perhaps raking it and then into a pile and then shoveling it would work. There's a wonderful diversity of plants out there now. It's really a shame to disturb them, actually, but you can see the sand, and particularly on the corners near the culvert. no, sort of in the center, that area there, and either side of the little access road too, there's quite a bit.
Yes, there's a pile right by the access road, that's right. So,
I would want to see the shrubs and things saved, and if they definitely have to be cut in order to access, then to leave the roots in place so that they can grow back again. You know, for an urban site, it's really not too bad a wetland as far as very few invasives and quite a variety of plant life out there that we don't see in a lot of our wetlands. I enjoy it. So I'm hoping that the disturbance, you know, can be minimized as much as possible, and that, you know, some of, I don't know how to limit the amount of soil that comes back. You know, I hate to say we'll just make it even, because you're actually talking about bringing soil into a wetland area, which it is not what we want to see. But it seems like the sand is very easy to tell the difference between the sand and the soil, the mucky wetland soil that's out there. So if you're not removing any of the mucky soils, then I wouldn't think that there was any need to bring in truckloads of soil. You could just perhaps smooth out the soil that's there and reseed, and then hopefully some of the plants that are out there will survive that process, or the seeds will be there. You know, I really am reluctant to say, well, okay, bring in soil and smooth this out. I'd also like to know more about this stone berm. Is that going to be beyond the paved area? Is that where you're proposing to put stone?
that's right, just at the edge of the paved area, so the second that any water comes off the pavement, it's filtered in sand.
What width of?
It's an angular crushed stone, basically. It's angular in
No,
nature.
what width of stone?
Oh, and the width. And there's a detail, I believe there's a detail. That, yeah, there's a detail that shows it's a foot wide.
And how deep?
So below the surface, I only have it a couple inches to key it into the soil. And then at the surface, it's, I want to say 12 inches tall, I believe.
So this is something that can be placed right on top of the wetland soil.
That's right.
And what's going to keep that from migrating down slope, should there be a slope at some point?
So underneath, there is erosion control mat, basically, to prevent migration of soil, but also will help if you need to replace any angular material, you know exactly where the bottom of that area is, and you can put the stone back. And so that's the intention.
Now, you said a mat, is that a filter fabric, or what?
It's a, what would be the best term, like a weed control barrier, basically like a Marafi fabric.
So that'll prevent anything from growing in the stone?
That's right. That's right. And also help from any sand that gets into the angular stone, which is the purpose, to catch it, would not migrate further into the wetland soil itself at that point.
Do you foresee some maintenance having to be done on this slope?
I think in the future, there would be regular maintenance needed just to check on it and make sure if there's a significant amount of sediment captured in some of these areas, then they'll just take that sediment out and or replace the stone in that area. It's just on an as-needed basis, but certainly not wholesale replacement. It's just normal yearly maintenance.
So in your replanting, you're not proposing any shrubs, you're proposing only grasses and flowers and
That's right.
herbaceous type things?
That's correct. Because on the perimeter, it's primarily grasses. It starts, especially on this section here, it starts to get into some shrubs in this area. But the whole point of this plan and what it mentions on the plan is to leave those shrubs and trees in place. So all we'd be doing is any disturbance would purely be at the surface level of the herbaceous layer.
Yeah. Now, there are some broken branches and things from the plow pushing snow in there. And I would think that those could be removed.
Surely, that's not a problem at all. We can certainly put that as a condition in the order of conditions if that's something that you wanted to.
Now, as far as a seed mix, do you have one picked out, or?
We do. I believe I have 2 wetland seed mixes on the plan. They're both from New England wetland plants, a great source out in Amherst, Mass. So there's a wet mix, and there's also an erosion control mix. So we mix them 50-50. And the wet mix typically takes a little bit of time to establish. So while it's establishing, to make sure there's no erosion in place, the other mix would take hold.
Questions?
The only other clarification I have is, with respect to the stone berm, is that going to be placed manually as well?
I don't think that needs to be placed manually. I think you could probably bring a little excavator in and just dump it right at the surface.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I just wasn't sure if it's the manual work is with respect to getting the sand and stuff out of the wetland area.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Are you going to be taking the sand off-site immediately, or is it going to be stockpiled on-site?
I envision stockpiling it on the site and then removing it all in, just a couple of trips, basically. But
Okay.
it's certainly going to be removed from the site. It's not going to be put anywhere else on the property.
So if you stockpile it, though, are you going to cover it, make sure it's secure every night?
So, yeah, right. What we've shown is 2 construction stockpile and staging areas in the pink here. And we envision putting a log around the stockpile area down slope. That way nothing migrates. But they're in the parking lot, and they're pretty far away from the wetlands. They're actually outside the 100-foot buffer.
What do you see as ongoing maintenance for this? Any?
Just the stone itself. I mean, that's the beauty of what I'm proposing. It's a low maintenance, can establish right away solution. So no mechanical means, no other methods would be necessary.
And I notice you've proposed signage to prevent snow storage in the wetland area in the future. What is the spacing of those signs going to be?
It's pretty tight. It's actually 50 feet. So there's going to be, I want to say 17 off the top of my head. I'd have to check the plan, but it's quite a few, actually.
Mm-hmm. Any further questions from the commission? Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this proposal for removing sand from the wetlands near the Showcase Cinema? No comments from the public. I think we can close the public hearing.
I'll offer a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
I think, most of this is covered in the notice of intent.
I'm ready to offer a motion to issue a City of Lowell standard order of conditions for this project, maybe with the possible special condition of removing any branches and stuff that are observed within the wetland area, as Commissioner Varnum pointed out.
Second.
And whatever we discussed here, of course, is part of the record. So I noticed you were taking notes as far as leaving roots and trying to save as many of the plants and things as possible, if you can rake around them. And
Sure, absolutely.
there's some beautiful cattails out there.
There is, especially from this stop here. It's a
Yeah.
good view back towards you. Yep.
And I'll just say I appreciate the proactive, activity of the applicant, because I remember when we were talking about this some time ago and saw the pictures, so thank you for being proactive.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion for a standard order with a couple of conditions, and we have a second?
Yep. Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Next, we have an enforcement order going back to sometime in August. The violation location is 674 Varnum Avenue. Property owners Tan Duy Nguyen and Leo T. Do. Dumping of debris into the floodplain in 100 foot of the wetland buffer zone of the Clay Pit Brook. Could you identify yourself, please?
My name is Tan Nguyen. This is the regarding the violation number 602, construction debris, ties, wood panel dumped into wetland.
Excuse me, could you speak a little closer to the mic?
Yeah. So I would like to have this order withdrawn because number one, we did not dump anything in that wetland area, and we don't even have access to that area from our backyard. So I took some pictures, close to the fence. There's no debris like, indicate in the order here. Maybe it's further away that we don't see, but I had to get on the fence. I have to climb on the fence to take some pictures down there because, we don't have access to it from our backyard. I don't know, I did not see anyone dump the stuff there, but we just don't have access to it.
Well, the situation is that the debris is there, and apparently it is on your property at the moment. And I can understand that having a fence there would have prevented you from seeing anyone who perhaps did dump it there, or in fact, it may have been dumped there prior to your owning the property. But the unfortunate thing is that now that it is there on your property, you have become the responsible person.
Yeah, it's in the wetland behind the fence of my property, so it's not really on my property, but, it's behind it.
It's not on the usable part of your property, but I'm pretty sure that the planning department checked the property lines, and it's very certain that your property probably extends beyond the fence, but someone, excuse me, someone put that fence there to probably keep children from falling into the wetland or whatever, but from what I understand from the planning department is that it's not a great amount of debris, and that it probably could be taken out by hand or somebody with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and removed. But it does need to be removed. It is in the wetland, and that is a very sensitive area to the neighborhood. There's been some flooding. I don't know how long you've owned the property, but that is an area that floods frequently, and it's important to keep that flowage open and able to flow so that it doesn't back up into people's basements.
Yeah, honestly, if I could get to that area, I would have done that myself instead of coming here.
Yeah.
I would have, but the problem is that I don't have access to it. My neighbor on the right-hand side, I think, they have access to that area, but we don't.
Yeah.
So even if I
Well,
wanted to,
what we're looking for is some kind of solution to the problem. And I know if you do look at city maps, that the city actually owns an access between the last duplex and the large house that there is actually a strip of land in between there that nobody owns but the city. And that is one way you could go back to city property and come in through that way.
No, I don't think I can get in that way because it's like there is the stream, there's the water there. It's not easy to get from the
Well,
back.
this wasn't easy to put this debris in there apparently then,
Oh,
if it isn't easy to get to.
It's not us to put the debris there, because we just can't get to it.
Yes.
What we would like to do is, we hadn't gotten any communication from you up until like today's meeting. So if you can give me a phone number that I can reach you, maybe we can do a site visit so that we
Yeah.
can inform you about what's the best way to do this.
Yeah.
And we also have your neighbor here who, maybe it's something we can work out with them if they have direct access for the cleanup event under the supervision of someone from our office so that it can be done with least, disturbance to anyone.
Yeah, like I said, I want to get that cleaned up. It's just
Sure.
really bad.
And I understand your predicament totally because at the very end of your property, and if you check your property records, it will be evident there's a small projection which is actually part of your property. And the
Probably.
fence is actually, keeping the boundary clean. So we totally understand, and, for that matter, we are not in any way insinuating that you are responsible for dumping it there, but as as our member pointed out, it is a resource area that's very sensitive, so it need to be clean. And we were also in the process of, discussing with your neighbor, maybe, I understand to put up a fence there, this must have been done a long time ago, the fence you have, but now to put up a fence, you're looking at additional filing and something, but maybe you can consider some arborvitae planting or something which will dissuade any such future dumping. That might be something that the commission could approve under
Yeah,
this.
I would like to work with my neighbor.
Sure.
If
So if you have, some contact information, I will take that right now so that our office can
Sure.
follow through.
Yeah.
And once the site is brought under compliance, the commission can entertain a motion to close the order.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll be working with Swathi in the planning department, but meanwhile, I think we need to ratify this enforcement order until this situation is resolved. We're going to keep the paperwork active and open so that we can be sure that it's followed through with you and perhaps your neighbor working together. So if I could have a motion to ratify this enforcement order,
I'll offer a motion to ratify this enforcement order.
seconded by
Second.
Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you could give that information to Swathi. Thank you for coming in. As part of this same enforcement action, we next on the agenda have in the enforcement order of the other side of the property, 680 Varnum Avenue, the same violation. Ranjan Patel and Nitin Patel. Hello.
Good evening, how are you doing?
Good. Could you
My name is
identify-
Nitin Patel. We didn't know that debris. As soon as it come to our attention, we clean it right away. And I'm sorry that happened.
Now, you understand what the solution to the problem would be to,
Not dumping that, I know that in
but
future.
to remove what has already been placed there. What is already there needs to be removed.
Chicken.
Actually, the material that were placed on their property, they have already cleaned that up.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing to do with other guy next door.
Okay, so, thank you very much for taking
You're
care
very
of that.
welcome.
Taking care of that
Yeah,
in
in
a
future,
prompt
it's nothing
manner.
like going to happen like that.
Yeah,
Because we're living there since 1998. This is the first incident happened.
okay.
We're not there because
So-
my handicapped sister one lives there, so.
So you don't have any idea how that,
No,
Took
we don't.
place.
So as soon as we get notice and get to our attention, we clean right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I call office back that we clean it too.
okay, so if you keep an eye on that in the future and you understand.
I will,
And thank
will.
you for working with Swati
Thank you.
and taking care of that.
I got a question, Swati. In light of what we were talking about, the last enforcement order, is traversing through this property another option? And would you be willing to allowing your neighbor to
We don't have a
using,
problem. He can go
walking
anytime he
across your-
wants, so.
okay,
Nobody asked us so far, so.
And we assure you that it will be under our supervision, so that.
We will.
It shouldn't be more than a couple of hours on a nice day, should be more than enough.
Okay.
Because they have a fence which makes it impossible to get to that area, whereas you don't have a fence in
Yeah.
your backyard, so it'll be easier for them.
Yeah.
And I assure you, we have a zoning enforcement agent who will be at the site to supervise that cleanup activity.
Okay.
and it would be very neighborly.
Yes, thank you. So if you don't mind, can I take down a phone number or, email address?
No problem. Yes,
Okay,
no problem.
thank you.
You want email?
Thank you.
Give my work number, okay? I'm going to be 12.
Actually, we need to ratify it and then rescind it.
Handwriting is pretty bad, so if you want to ratify it, Patel Anand 56@gmail.com. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you for coming in.
Sorry, you have to come here.
Okay, so to take care of the paperwork on this enforcement order, we first need to ratify it.
I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now if we could have a motion to rescind it.
I'll offer a motion to rescind the order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have the Stackpole Street Pump Station Project, 206-707. Discussion of revised plans, including excavation for installation of a temporary valve and a permanent valve on the existing water main. Would you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, good evening, Commission members. My name is Nathan Little, with Woodard and Kern. I'm representing the Lowell Regional Water Utility. So the request is to allow some additional work to be performed under the existing order of conditions filed under Mass DEP file 206-0707. As you had stated before, this is work to be performed in the area north of the Merrimack River, near the Hunts Fall Bridge, to the northeast of the Hunts Fall Bridge. near the property of 1600 VFW Highway. Previous work done under this order of conditions was an immediate need to improve 2 water mains that run under the river in that location, connecting the north and south side of the distribution system. There's a third 30-inch water main that will be involved with the proposed work. This proposed work includes, as you stated, the installation of a 30-inch line stop or temporary valve, along with an additional gate valve, which will act as a permanent valve on that 30-inch water main in the location on the north side of the river. The purpose of the work is to install the permanent gate valve to provide a means of hydraulic isolation on the north side of the river, which will allow work to be done at the Stackpole Street pump station, which is located on the south side of the river at 178 Stackpole Street. The proposed area excavation is approximately 200 square feet, 120 of that being for the line stop temporary valve, and 80 of that being for the gate valve, the permanent valve. The plan is to, following excavation, fill the excavation, match existing grades, and loam and seed areas of disturbance. The proposed work is approximately 85 feet from the riverbank in that location, which is within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. We also to note, we've emailed Lauren Glorioso from the state to verify that the work here is exempt from NHESP and MESA review, as the work prior was as well.
So you're looking for an amendment to the order of 2013, or you're actually using that file number for this?
Correct, yeah.
submission.
It's additional work that would be performed under that existing order of conditions in that same location, if you see here on the site plans.
It's just at the other end of the pipe,
What's that?
the other end of the pipe
Yeah,
that goes under the river.
There's 3 parallel water mains that run down the hill and under the river over to where Stackpole Street pump station is on the south side of the river. The previous work was performed pretty much right on the edge of the river. What they did during that work was slip line the 24-inch, the old 24-inch cast iron main that was there with a HDP, like a plastic pipe, and then connected that with the 12-inch. So those are both on the high service. They service high service areas in the city. The 30-inch main is actually a low service that provides water to the Stackpole Street pump station, where they pump up to the high service on the other side of the river. So what's going on is that pump station is being replaced as part of an improvements project. And in order to be able to do the work on the suction side of that pump station, there's no means of isolation prior to now at the top of the hill in Mount Vernon Park. So there's concerns with isolating that main all the way up on top of the hill and then doing work at a lower elevation that could cause damage to the pipe, which is the main feed for the city. So the proposed work is to install those temporary valves, or the temporary line stop and permanent gate valve down by the river to allow for that work to be performed in more of a safe manner.
What's the duration of this project?
We have a complete schedule for the project, proposed schedule. The intention is to go out to bid on the 1st of October, pending authorization from DEP. We've received authorization from the regional office of DEP. Their drinking water program has done a review of the project and given us authorization to proceed. We're waiting for approval from the Boston office of DEP for authorization to bid. And we spoke with them today, and we're hoping to get that done shortly here. So the schedule is to go out to bid, as I said, on October 1st, with authorization to award, or the notice of award to the contractors in the beginning of December of this year. It'll allow the contractors to get all their submittals into us for review and start work next spring, would be the intention. So the spring of 2015, we'd hope to break ground on the project. We haven't identified the schedule to too much detail as to when that work would be performed. I would assume probably sometime in the late spring of 2015. The work itself, I would say this phase 1 work shouldn't probably take the contractor much longer than several days, maybe two or 3 days, to do the excavation, install the hydrant, and backfill and pave. The work down by the side of the river, I would assume, again, the same time frame, probably 2 to 3 days to get in there, excavate, install the line stop, and then the permanent valve, and backfill and grade the site.
How is the work coming along on the first phase that you?
The first phase is nearing completion. They're working on record drawings, on as-built drawings, and finalizing that contract. There's several other coworkers that are working on that project as well.
I guess the question I would have is, well, go ahead, questions.
You know, my take on it from hearing the scope of the work, when I look at the existing order of conditions, I would think that this would not constitute a significant change. Condition number 6 says any changes made or intended to be made to the plan submitted to the Lowell Conservation Commission shall require the applicant to inquire of this department in writing as to whether or not the change is significant enough to require the filing of a new notice of intent. I, for one, don't think that's the case. And so I guess I'm questioning as to how do we ratify this? Do we just acknowledge it? Or do we have to modify the existing approval?
If you find it as something that can be considered as a minor modification, you can take a motion to accept the revised additional plan to be incorporated.
As part of the record? That
Yes.
goes, so in other words, when we ultimately issue a certificate of compliance, this paperwork will be part of that record?
Yes, yes.
That would be my recommendation, but I'd obviously be interested in with my colleagues.
Yes, and this proposed work is only within the wetland buffer, outside the 50 feet, actually.
Right, 85 feet.
Yeah, that would also be recorded, that change would go into the registry recording. Yes.
Yes.
Questions anymore? I'm just anxious to get the paperwork part of it right here. We don't do these every day.
Understandable.
In my mind, this is a continuation of the same project also, so I agree with Mr. Lovely. So I guess we would need a motion, if there's no more discussion, a motion to incorporate this additional work into
The existing approval and order of conditions.
into DEP number 206-707.
Well, I will offer that motion.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, we have communication regarding 40 Hadley Street, DEP number 206-728. This was construction of a single-family home. We signed off on the approval for this several weeks ago, several meetings ago. And the request is that the interior foundation wall be widened from 10 inches, I believe, to 12 inches. This is relevant to us because this is a floodplain area, I believe. So we have an amended plan here. It's just the interior wall, I believe, not the exterior. So this would also be an amendment. Alicia?
Was it changed, or was it not on the previous plan?
So this, one of the conditions was to provide the foundation plan details, which they did in June.
Okay,
And that recorded the thickness as 10 inches.
right.
And now they're doing structural work, and they have, taken a closer look at the structural details, and they need a 1 foot thick wall.
Oh, okay, because just
And-
reading this
yes.
letter, it makes it seem like it wasn't on there and they were adding it.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
the original one was one of the conditions, and one of the special conditions was in case there was any change to the width of the wall,
That's right.
it should then be approved by the commission.
Okay,
Since it's a flow-through foundation, we're looking at, this basement being flooded in the event of a flood. So that's why that increase in thickness reduces the storage capacity. However, they have sufficiently overcompensated their flood storage so that this is still included in that.
So I think this is a matter of a motion to approve the change.
I make a motion to approve the change dated September 10th, 2014.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have a letter from the Northern Middlesex Council of Government, Beverly Woods, concerning the Lowell and Great Brook Planning Unit proposal from the Department of Conservation Recreation, DCR. So Ms. Wood has given us a copy of something that was sent to Commissioner Murray. I attended one of these meetings about the draft resource management plan, and they were encouraging people to submit comments, and that's what this is comments on their plan, which appear to be very well thought out, and I think they're encouraging or hoping that conservation commissions within this district will also submit comments if they feel it's necessary. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this letter? Nope. It's in the file, and I think we could probably bring it back under old business at a future meeting if anyone thinks of comments that they're interested in submitting. So we'll just file that. And lastly, I believe, is a letter from Liz Otani, the property manager of the Centennial Island Apartments, 576 Lawrence Street. They've been clearing invasive vegetation along the canals and the Concord River. Swati and I were there to look over a certificate of compliance request, and they were at work on this without having notified the commission. So we asked them to submit their proposal for this work, even though the work had already begun. And it appeared that the work was being done in a very respectful manner as far as the wetlands or the river was concerned. So we have the proposal on file now. Since it was ongoing maintenance, we decided that it wasn't necessary for them to submit any kind of formal order. And they are now requesting that we authorize the remainder of the work that was just along the Concord River, because it is within 25 feet of the bank. So is there any discussion on this particular item? So I think we could probably entertain a motion to authorize them to complete the work that they've started as an ongoing maintenance, and to continue to be respectful of the wetlands issues on the property.
I make a motion to accept the letter dated September 2nd for continued work within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, and to allow future maintenance of the area as well.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any other business, Swati?
That's all for today.
I will offer a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, made and seconded. Thank you and good night.
Nice job, Louisa.
Yay.
Thank you.